The rich man went to the countryside for the first time to discuss business, but there was a small accident on the way.
Shit.
My apologies, sir.
Because his clothes were stained by the coffee, he had to change into a t-shirt that the butler had prepared for his son. At first, the rich man didn't care. After putting it on, he even showed it off to the butler. But he could never have imagined this insignificant piece of clothing would change his life forever. After saying goodbye to the butler, the man went to the farm alone. When he arrived, he was shocked by what he saw. A beautiful woman was delivering a cow. At that moment, a little girl approached him with a bucket of water. The man subconsciously stepped forward to help, but the girl mistook him for a job applicant, so she asked him to help the cow give birth. The man tried to explain, but the situation is urgent and the woman doesn't give him a chance. Eventually, with the two of them working together, the baby calf was born without a hitch. The woman was finally relieved. Then she remembered to ask the man who he was.
How do you know, for a second there I thought you were the suit?
What?
Some hoity-toity company man is supposed to come by later today and wave some money in my face.
Is that so?
Yeah, but ready to welcome him though.
Seeing the old hunting rifle, the man had to swallow his words, because he is the representative of the company the woman was talking about. Mike is a rich kid from California. Because he was always fooling around with women, he has a very bad reputation in the company. Many of the directors were dissatisfied with his behavior. In order for the son to succeed the company, as the chairman of the board, the mother had to send him to the countryside to acquire a farm for the company. Mike thought it was a simple task, but he didn't expect it to be so difficult. Seeing Annie's tough attitude, Mike had to stay here as a worker to see if he could find another way out. So he told the butler to stay at the hotel in town for a few days, and he asked him to get a hold of the real worker that Annie had hired. But the butler didn't know where to find this worker, Manny. Just as the butler was getting worried, he found a man named Manny sitting right next to him, and after a few moments of conversation, Manny agreed to the butler's terms, but he said that he had to solve the problem of his accommodation for a few days. The butler had no choice but to agree. They met at a cottage near the farm. When the butler told Manny about the plan, Mike asked Manny for a lot of knowledge about the farm. Then he worked hard on the farm every day, and Manny played games at the cottage, but Mike, who had been spoiled since childhood, had no idea how to work a farm. And despite Manny's guidance, but Mike couldn't complete the tasks Annie gave him on time. This made Annie, who was already struggling financially, very angry, so she went to Mike in a rage.
So did you notice the feed bins were empty?
What?
The feed bins for the cows were empty, meaning they haven't eaten today.
Yeah, but that wasn't on my list.
Okay, well, neither is take a shower, but good hygiene is still expected on this ranch.
Noted.
During the conversation, Mike found out that not only did Annie have to take care of the farm and working part-time in a bar at night, Mike was shocked. He couldn't understand how she kept it up. To get to know Annie better, at night he followed Annie to the only bar in town, but when he arrived he found Annie being pestered by a man.
She said let go.
What are you gonna do about it?
I've always wanted to do this.
The two of them fought in the bar, until Annie screamed at them to stop. They stopped. In the end, Mike was kicked out of the bar. But after this incident, Annie became more and more attracted to Mike, and Mike became more and more interested in this tough girl. One day Mike found a Harley in a warehouse. Mike's love of collecting motorcycles delighted him.
Who's my dad's? Yeah, he died 3 years ago.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Mike understood the pain of losing his father. He told Annie to get over it. He said that time heals all wounds, and that anyone who survived should savor the moment. Mike's words were a comfort to Annie. In order to thank him for his help at the bar last night, Annie invited Mike to her home. Seeing that Annie had made a new friend, her mother and sister were happy for her. From then on, Mike came over for dinner every day. As the days went by, Mike began to get used to life here. He became more and more comfortable with the farm work. Mike and Annie's relationship began to grow. The mother could see the change in her daughter. She thanked Mike and begged Mike to continue working here next year. But as Christmas approached, the task's deadline was approaching. The butler urged Mike to solve the problem as soon as possible. If he can't, he can pay for it. There was no point in wasting time, and Manny also thought that he couldn't afford to delay any longer. He should tell Annie everything. The more time that went by, the worse it would get. But Mike couldn't make up his mind, because he'd fallen in love with Annie. Just when Mike was torn between telling the truth or not, Annie took him to a place. It turned out that because the farm had not been doing well, Annie's father had wanted to turn it into a winery. He had transplanted old French vines. Then Annie and Mike shared some of her father's wine. Under the influence of alcohol, Annie gradually opened up. She confessed everything to Mike.
We've been drowning in debt for months. And I don't see a way out. I can't tell you how helpless I feel. Some big city company wants to buy this land for a shipping facility.
Mike persuaded Annie to accept the offer and use the money to buy a better farm. But Annie said she couldn't leave this place because it held so many emotions and memories. Originally, they were on the verge of finding a way out. But 3 years ago, a car accident killed Annie's fiancé and father, and her mother was also diagnosed with cancer. Annie was devastated. She didn't know what the future held for her. What happened to Annie left Mike with mixed feelings. He decided to tell Annie everything and to increase the contract offer. But as he looked at Annie with a smile on her face, Mike put the contract down, and he couldn't help but kiss her. Annie didn't refuse. She closed her eyes a little. Just as they were embracing in a passionate embrace, her younger sister brought the bad news.